Okay, so I'm Julia Koumbassa. I'm the director of the North Campus Children's Center at University of Michigan. We have three children's centers on our Ann Arbor campus, and I'm the director of one of them. We have typically about 150 families who attend our center. Right now, we have about 40 coming. Um, Obviously, because of the pandemic, we have reduced our enrollment significantly to make smaller class sizes. Um, and we will be expanding classrooms at the end of August for what's the start of the school year. So we opened back up July 13th. So we've been here a few weeks and things are going really well. But I'm going to talk about what my work looks like when it's not a pandemic. But before that, I'll talk a little bit about my journey. So I have, and it's sort of a cliche thing. I've always loved children, but it's true. From about the age of 12, I was babysitting neighbors' kids and just loved kids. And then thought I would be a pediatrician or something like that until I got older and realized how much school that involved and was like, maybe not. So I went to the Ohio State University for my undergrad, and for a while I could not decide on a major, and so I was just taking lots of different classes until they were like, you need to decide on a major. So I chose psychology. So I was a psychology major, and then I got a part-time job at a childcare center. And I just loved it so much that I changed my major to early childhood education, which did end up in me having to take another year to finish my bachelor's degree, but it was worth it. And so I continued in various roles in early childhood programs. For the next few years, I worked as an infant teacher, a preschool teacher, and then I was sort of like, okay, what next? And I decided to join Teach for America. And I don't know if you're familiar with Teach for America, but it's a government community service program. It's sort of like the Peace Corps, but domestic. And so you get placed in a school somewhere in the US in an under-resourced community. There's a 6-week teacher boot camp that you go through, and then you're just put in a classroom. So I ended up teaching kindergarten in the South Bronx in New York, which was a huge learning experience. And I'm glad to have learned a little bit about what kindergarten teachers and what kindergarten is like before coming back to early childhood. I feel like I'm better prepared to help families as they transition. So I did that, and then I moved to Seattle, where I got my first leadership job at a small private Jewish school. And honestly, I applied for jobs that I was not qualified for just to see what would happen. And for some reason, they hired me as their early childhood director. And while I was working there, I realized I really liked the leadership aspect of this work. And so I started my master's degree at Seattle University. So I finished my master's in educational leadership and then started looking for different positions. I wanted to work for a bigger organization, a more structured organization, and I ended up getting a job as a director at a community college there, and I was a director there for 5 years. And also started teaching some classes as an adjunct faculty at some of the colleges. So I did that for a while and then decided to come back this way to the Midwest to be closer to family after having our second child. And so now I've been here at U of M for 7 years. and I love it. And I'll talk a little bit more about what I do here. So this was when I transitioned to this job, I remember my first week, because this was a much bigger program than I had worked in before. And in my previous program, it was a brand new center. We didn't even have furniture yet. And so we started it from scratch. We bought all the materials and supplies. We hired all the teachers. And so it looked very different coming into a program that was already established and had a long history, because there were changes that I wanted to make, but it's a little more difficult to do when there's already things in place. So that's been a really long and fun journey, getting us to where we are today. And so, yeah, I love it. So I'm going to share my screen so I can talk a little bit about my work here. Oh, the thing I was going to say is my first week here in this bigger program, I remember thinking so many times, what did I get myself into? I was a little afraid, but I'm still here and it's going really well. So good to take risks, and it's okay to change your career path. My best friend, we've been friends since college. She has known what she wanted to do as an adult, as her profession, since she was 12 years old. And she committed to that career path, and she's doing that now. So I think there's no right journey for you. You can take multiple routes. You might be someone who knows now, I know exactly what I want to do as my profession, like I'm going to work towards that goal. But you might also be a person who is not sure, and you can try out different things, and just see where your path takes you. And you can always change careers, even when you're 30 or 40 or 50. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and my journey. So I'm going to talk about what I do here. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So I love my job, and I started making a list of things why I love my job. The main reason I love my job is because every day is different. I never really know what to expect when I'm walking in the door, which sounds scary, but it's actually exciting and fun. I love creative problem solving and working through things. So I think it's a perfect fit for me. If you're someone who likes predictability and flex and structure, this is maybe not the kind of career you would want. But if you like new and exciting and challenging things, this is definitely a good career. So this is probably not all encompassing, but these are some of the things that I do on a regular basis. So number one is developing and upholding our high quality programming, which part of that includes visits to classrooms every day. I visit each classroom, I say hello, I pop in, I check in with teachers. I might sit and play with kiddos for a little bit. I make sure that we have documentation programs in place, curriculum, and then of course all the training that goes along with that, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And I did, when I came here 7 years ago, change the curriculum and the philosophy of our program. And we're now a Reggio inspired program. Sorry, that's my phone ringing. Connecting with families is another aspect of my job that I absolutely love. And we do that in many different ways. One of them being, and I don't think all directors do this, but I stand by the front door every morning and every evening as families come in to drop off or pick up, and just say hello. If it's the end of the day, I might share something I saw their child doing. And I just love that time connecting with families, and I think it helps them have a stronger connection to the program. I'm not just the director who they don't know who I am or what I look like. They see me all the time. So we also have something called Family Connections Gathering, which is a monthly event where we do little workshops and things for families. So that's another way that we connect with families. And then we have other events throughout the year, like a big end of year picnic and things like that. So right now we're trying to figure out how are we going to maintain those connections with families when we can't really do any of those things in person. So we'll probably be having lots of Zoom events. So professional development and supporting teachers. So we have annual goal setting. I have right now 32 teachers and an assistant director and an administrative assistant. So we sit down every year, we set goals for the year that they work towards. And another aspect of my job that I absolutely love is professional development, training teachers. And we do a lot of in-house training. So I lead a lot of the trainings that we do, but then I also bring in experts in different areas. And I also like to send teachers to different conferences around the country. Because I think it's really important for teachers to stay up to date on what's the latest in teaching practice, what are best practices now, because those things are always changing. So yeah, I focus a lot on professional development for teachers. And then event planning, I jokingly say to my assistant director that if something ever happens to our jobs here, we'll start an event planning business, because it's a lot of what we do with all the events that we have for families, all the trainings that we host. We have in-service days for staff, and we are also very involved in the community. We have hosted several national conferences, events. We go out in the summer, of course, not this year, but typically we'll have a booth at Summerfest. We've had areas at Touch a Truck when that was going on. So we're always planning some kind of event or hosting some kind of thing here. Related to that, we also typically host student teachers from Eastern Michigan University and U of M Dearborn. So we usually have 3 to 4 student teachers each semester. We also have an intern from the School of Social Work that's with us for a year, and we've also hosted interns getting their administrative certifications. So we do have a lot of interns and student teachers as well that we host. And then I've gone to different schools to do like guest workshops and classes at EMU and Concordia. So we like to be really active in the community too. Where do I have time to fit all this in? We do some with budget, and I do a lot of purchasing of materials and things for classrooms. Here at U of M, we're really fortunate in that we have a budget department. So we're not as involved in the budget process. We do, of course, have to make decisions that ensure that we're not losing money, but we're not doing any of the budget specifics. Now, if you're a director in most programs, like where I was before, there's a lot of more direct work with the budget. So we're really fortunate here. We have an admin team that handles our budgets, all the tuition and billing for families. They handle doing all of the enrollment and manage our wait list. So that's a huge help, which does free me up to do all these other things in the community. And again, where I was before in any other directorate job I've had, that really was part of the job of the director, was handling enrollment, billing, and all of that stuff. Project management. So when we need things done in our building, like we were having a kitchen renovation, I would be the one working with facilities to plan that and coordinate times and pick out the cabinet color and things like that. We also had a huge project where we redid our flooring and all of our walls in the center, and we had to move everything out of the building, pack it onto a moving truck so they could come in and do the work and then move it back in. So I would be coordinating those kinds of efforts as well. And then in between all of that, I do all kinds of other stuff. Like when classrooms are short-staffed, I will come in and help cover lunch breaks. If there's a classroom that might be struggling with a child who's having some challenging behaviors, I might step in to help, or I might take that child out and take them for a walk. Sometimes I just get to hold and rock babies, help with making snack, and then any other emergent issues that come up. There's always some random thing like there's a squirrel in our ceiling. I have even been known to have to clean up goose poop out front of our building when the geese are very active around here. So that's a lot, but this is my favorite part. And when I'm feeling stressed or just like, I need a break from being in front of my computer or whatever, I like to go out and play with the babies. That's me crawling, if you didn't know. Okay, I'm stopping the screen share. So that's a little bit about me and the work that I do. So I am happy to answer some questions.
All right, Hunter and Cameron. Oh, and feel free to use, you can either type things into the chat or you know, come off mute and ask questions as well. Yes, I love Cameron's yeah.
Yes, please feel free to type in the chat or just ask us.
Yeah, I actually have a question. So
yes.
One question I like to ask is just like, when you were looking at a career field, you said you knew you liked teaching or helping kids or whatnot, and then you said you sort of messed around with what you were actually interested in college. When you were looking at values for your career position, what values did you take into consideration while looking at career positions? And are those values like upheld right now during your career and what you're doing right now?
That's a really good question, Hunter. And I don't know if I've ever fully thought about it, but when I think back, when I look at working with children and working with families and working with teachers, I think that the foundation there was relationships and that connection with people. So that's definitely a value that's carried me forward. But I don't think way back when I sat down and said, what are the values for my career? That's a really good question.
Like, that makes sense. And I actually have another one as well. You mentioned that you do have people who, that you do have people do internships with you and your program, and then you even have one social work internship. What is the relationship like between the social work internship and the other internships that happen throughout the year in the semesters?
So for the student teachers and the interns from U of M Dearborn, they are in the classrooms and they work most closely with the lead teacher in each classroom. So I don't have a ton of daily interaction with them. They're more in the classrooms, just like a typical student teaching role. The social work interns, we've tried different scenarios. The first year I supervised the social work intern, but I found that given the list of duties that I have, it was hard to really give that person the time and attention that they needed. So this year when we had our intern, my assistant director was their supervisor. Bless you, Amy. But they also need to have, as part of their social work program, they need to have someone who has an MSW as their other supervisor. So it's kind of a team supervision thing where there's one of us as administrators and then there's a social worker who's currently working. And so my role in that would really be to just look at, like, they might ask me, like, what are the needs? What do you see as my role here? What can I help with? So like I would sit down with them in the beginning, and then daily interactions would be more with our assistant director.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Cameron, did you have any questions?
No, actually I don't, but thank you so much for coming in and sharing.
You're welcome. All right, so I can type my contact info in the chat if you come up with any questions or you want any tips or advice. I'm happy to help.
Oh, thank you so much, Julia. I think
You're
everybody
welcome.
loved hearing too about how it's okay to change your mind and this is a time to explore. And I can really relate to that. I was out of college for 2 years and then totally shifted direction. So it's great to reinforce that to our young people that it's okay.
Yeah,
Now's the time to figure it out.
definitely. And figure it out before you spend all that money on college, because that was another thing with me. I wasted a couple years taking classes and then changing my major. So yeah, it helps to just wait and figure it out. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you so much, Julia. You're amazingly inspirational, and one of my children is going this route, so I'm so excited to hear you talk
that's
about it,
awesome.
and very close to my heart. So thank you.
You're
All right,
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a great week.